Hi everybody, my name is Lars Christensen and thank you for joining me in this video series where we are taking and assembling a drawer with dovetails. So we kind of like got the basics of the drawer done. We got the dovetails in there, we got the bottom in there. It's all parametric. Whenever we make a change, things updates. What we need to do now is creating a nice cover panel for the front there. So let's get into that. So I'm going to go down and make the cover panel active. And we're literally just going to open up a sketch on the front panel as we still want that to kind of drive the whole design. So I'm going to go up just like we did in the beginning, create a new sketch, and click right on the front face here to open the sketch. Now again, you guessed it, S key and a 2-point rectangle, and just sketch in the outline for the cover panel. Now you might be tempted here to start putting in the dimensions of all here, but I still want that if I change that one dimension in the front panel, that the cover panel follows along too. So the way we're going to do that is actually by just placing the rectangle here and then D for dimension, and now we're actually going to tie these edges into the front panel instead. So whenever the front panel changes size, we will always maintain, in this case, a 1/2 inch on each side, and on the top of the bottom we're going to maintain 0.75. so this is a way that we can assure that even if the drawer changes size, as we saw in the first video, that we will maintain that relationship. So with this, I'm going to hide the other components and hit the Q and extrude this whole front panel. I'm actually going to extrude this one out, and I'm going to make it 1 inch thick. So just if I go back and turn everything back on and activate the top component, we can kind of see that now we have this cover panel on. Now this cover panel in the real world would have some screws holding it in. We're not going to worry about that here. Now one thing we do have to do though, right, is we have to attach it to that panel. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to go back and do a as built joint and select these two components here and make sure that they are attached. Now we have a couple of things we want to do to the cover panel. This is a pretty boring draw in itself, I think, besides putting on the handles. So I'm going to just hide everything else here. And one of the things there is in the front of here, there's a little recess in. So with the cover panel active, I'm just going to go in and open up a sketch on that front face. Now there's another command that can be kind of handy to know about, and that is the offset command. So if I hit the S key and type in offset, I can actually offset this outer edge. So just by clicking that outer edge, you would actually see that I can offset that in just like this here. I'm going to make this minus 1/4 inch, so that sketch is in there. You could have created a 2-point rectangle and created all the different relations, but the offset command makes quick use of this. Hit Q, and this is going to be a cut, so it's going to be minus 250 here. So now we have a nice little recess right here. Now just to kind of make it a little smooth, I'm going to go in and add some fillets to it. So that's the drop down, the fillets. And I'm just going to select all our edges here, so we don't have any sharp corners, like this. And let's make it 100 thousandths here. So now we have a nice kind of fillet that goes around here. Now the other thing we have to this cover panel is that we have to put the handles on here, the 2 knobs that's going to go on here. But one of the things to be aware of is that those 2 knobs is going to be pretty much going to drill 2 holes through this board, but we're also going to drill 2 holes through the front panel because the screw is coming in from the inside of the drawer. So instead of being active within the cover panel, because we want the holes to go through both front panel and cover panel, we're actually going to do that with the active in the whole assembly mode. So that cut's going to happen right through these two plates. So by making the whole draw active, we will now put the actual feature in the whole feature tree here and not in the single component. I'm still going to sketch on this area here. So I'm going to just right click and create a sketch here. And we're going to place the two holes. Now I'm just going to hit the C for circle. And I'm just going to place two circles completely random. And then I'm going to start tying it in as you see me do before with relationships and dimensions. So first I'm just going to throw a dimension on here quick. And because I know that this one here is going to be 0.25. Now, quickly, and there's no specific order in this, but this is just kind of like how I work through this. So now my next point would be to make these two equal. So this one's going to be equal to this one. That makes it this one now also R250. And then we can start talking about we want to place these. So I'm going to create a little sketch geometry, some construction geometry. So I'm going to hit line, alpha line. I'm going to make sure that I click on get the midpoint of these two panels, and I'm going to make this a construction line, so by hitting X. And now we could create a coincident relationship between this point and this line, and we could do the same thing with this point to this line. So now those holes are attached to that line. Now they can still moving horizontal here. I know there's 15 inches between them, so I'm going to hit D on the keyboard to get my dimension tool. So I can make this one 15 between the two holes. But we're still in the same situation that they can move. Now they're just moving together here. So let's create another construction line. So I'm going to go in here and do the midpoint of here to the midpoint of there. Again, select the line, hit X. And now I can use my favorite relationship, but it's the symmetry. So select the 2 points. And select that line, and now I can see I have a full defined sketch. Now here's the interesting thing, because remember we have this component active up here. I'm going to go and hit Q. Now you're saying, wait a minute, you didn't hide all the other components. And I'm doing this just to show you how this kind of works. If I go in here and select our two circles as our two cuts, we could cut right now. We could literally cut through every single panel, and that would of course be bad. So if right now I just grab the arrow and drag them out like this, I think this is bad practice. You could also be tempted to say all, but that would also go through everything you see here. What I would prefer to do is to object and then select that back panel where we want the hole to be at. So just wanted to show this as a way of using the different extent options in the drop down here for this kind of stuff. Hit OK, and we now have placed those two holes that goes through here. So now we are ready for our knob. Now we could absolutely model up the knobs inside of this whole assembly. Wouldn't be a problem at all. But sometimes you get models from other people that you need to bring into your current design, or maybe the knobs was purchased from somewhere and you got the 3D model already. So what we're going to do here is we're going to model up the knobs in a separate file and then show you how we can bring them into the current design. So I'm going to go up and create a brand new file up here, new design. So now we have a brand new component in here, and I'm going to sketch up this knob. Now we're going to use the function called Revolve, and this is great for anything that is considered round. So just so you're aware of that, anything that is round, Revolve is normally a good option for that. Now I'm going to turn on my origin as always, and I'm going to open up a sketch right on this plane here. Now, when we do the revolve, we always got to revolve around an axis. So I always kind of start drawing that one. So I'm going to create a line here, and I'm just going to sketch up the line going up vertical like this. Now, again, when I'm sketching, many times I don't worry about the length and the dimensions until a little bit later. First, I'm kind of like roughing in what I need. So this knob is going to have a lot of round edges. I'm going to use something called a 3-point arc. So if you go up to the sketching here, and you can see we have the arcs, you'll see the different type of arcs that is in here. I'm going to use the 3-point arc. Now the 3-point arc is fairly easy to use as long as you know that the 3 points are the 2 endpoints and then the center rotation. So if I click right here on one and then I click on the second one over here, you can see that I kind of like get that outline right there. Now, of course, this knob is going to contain of all different kinds of arcs. So this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to create another one that's going to come down like this here. And I'm going to have one that's going to go the other way, like that. And then there's going to be another one that's going to kind of like create a radius like that. And then I'm actually going to go into my line and just create a little line segment and turn that in there. So now what we have is something that is not defined at all. I haven't even put a dimension or anything on it. And this is not really what we want. But one of the things I want to make sure that you know that as soon as you're playing with arcs, there is a relationship over here that is called tangent. That is always the first relationship you add to an arc. And let me show you why. Because if I grab one of these points, I can completely cut everything to pieces in here. So if you don't add that tangency, things has a tendency to just completely blow up, like you can see is happening right here, and can really get frustrating. So the first relationship I always add whenever I have any type of arcs is the tangency. So let's click on that one and place one here and one here. And as soon as I do that, you can see that now we got kind of like a nice area here. I'm going to do one on every single one because that is going to make sure that this thing don't just completely rolls up into itself. I'm actually also going to create a little construction line that goes from here to the left here and make a tendency between that one and the top here. Just like that. Whoop, and there you can see what can happen with that tendency depending on where you add it on. Now trying to get this back just like that can be pretty difficult, as you can see here. So actually I think that the lesson here is that I should have applied that tangency first. So I'm just going to go back and undo everything that I did, hit the line tool again, and let's create that relationship first. Let's go back into tangency, make that tangent first, and then apply the different ones. So as you can see here, even though that, you know, I'm supposed to be trained and everything, you know, these kind of things can become can happen to me too. Now with these relations in here, at least what we have done now is we have kind of controlled that these are not going to kind of cripple in with each other. But as we're applying the different dimensions, we can still, to be honest, get into a little bit of a trouble here. So just be careful when you go ahead here and applying the different dimensions. So I'm going to do a dimension from this edge to this edge, and I'm going to make the length of this 60 thousandths. And then I know I'm going to have a center line from here to here, and I'm going to make this 40 thousandths. Now here you can see a typical example where suddenly this line goes beneath. Now you can either try to drag it up and see if you can kind of get it back, what I can do if I'm moving it like this. But this can take a little, this is something that is pretty common when you're modeling in here, that you're running into a little bit of scenarios like this. And I wanted to show it to you that it happens to me too. So I'm going to go in here and apply one here. It's going to be 100 thousandths. And we're going to have a radius right here. This one here is going to be 30. This one is going to be 1.3. And again, you're working on trying to get everything kind of like placed in the right spot. Now again, you can see as I'm moving here, the things are really going crazy here. Now I'm going to add my overall dimension. like that. And I also know that I have a dimension from this center point to this center point, and that's going to be 0.85. And now it starts looking a little bit more like something I want. I'm actually having a width here. To do that, I'm going to have to create a center line, construction line from here to here, and hit diameter like that, and that's going to be 0.75. Now you will see that the sketch is fully defined. It's completely black. But just be aware of when you're sketching things like this up here that it can take a little to mess around with. But make sure you get it fully defined no matter how frustrating it is. To use the Revolve command, I'm going to go in and hit the Revolve under Create. I'm going to select the profile, and then I'm going to select the edge to revolve around. And just like that, I select that center line, we now have this knob created. I actually still have the component toggle on from our previous, so we can just turn that off. So there is our knob that we're going to put on these drawers. Now I'm going to turn the origin off. I do have to put a thread through this one. So I am going to open a sketch down here on the bottom and just create a hole. So C for circle, and create a 0.25 diameter. Do a Q to cut. And I'm just going to make this one a 1/2 inch deep. And then you could just be aware of that down under Create, we do have thread. So we could add a thread to this hole if we want to. You can choose to either model or not. That was what we did in the beginner video. And there is our Dovetail Draw knob. So I'm going to save this one. I'm going to save it into the same folder where I have my my draw. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this Dovetail Knob. Oh, and hit save. And that has now been saved. Now let's go back to our original design, and let's bring in the knob. We actually need 2 of them. So I'm going to go out to show my panel here, and here you will see up on top we have the Dovetail Knob. That was the one we just created. To insert it into this component, I'm going to right click and say insert into current design. I'm going to click on that. And you will see that we get that here. And I'm just going to hide the data panel again. I can grab the arrows just to kind of like pull it out a little bit and hit OK. And there is the knob. Now what you will see happening over in the feature tree over here is that it has this link on it, because this one is actually linked from the outside in. That means I cannot edit this knob in here, but if I make an edit out in our original file, it will update into here. Now I actually need 2 of these, right? So what I can actually do is I can highlight this one here, and I can do a Control-C, Control-V, and then I actually get a number 2 of this knob in here, and now I have the 2 knobs. Now we're going to insert these in the drawer here. So to do that, we're going to do the same thing as we did in the Absolute Beginner one, that we're going to go up and use a joint for this. So I'm going to select joint, and I'm going to move over, and I'm going to select right on our threaded hole right here. Make sure that I pick up the center. Now remember that if you hold down Control or Command, you can select that center. And then I'm going to select right on the hole here. Zoom in a little bit so we can see it. And of course it's going the wrong way if there's 50-50 chance. So don't forget we got the flip command over here. And there is this knob. Now we're going to do the same thing again. So right click, repeat joint. And we're going to go over here and select on the second one here. That one. And select the same one over here. That one's got to be flipped too. just like that. And we now have the two knobs added here. Now the last thing we have to do is add a couple of screws, and again we will just use the McMaster-Carr component library that exists inside of Fusion 360. So by selecting that, we can go and we can select our screw. We can find out whatever screw we want to use here. I think that this probably would have something, let's say like the old-fashioned type here. And this screw is 1/4 inch by 20. And let's go ahead and see the length. So I'm not quite sure how long this one actually going to be. I'm going to select a 1/2 and 1/2 an inch. Let's select 1 1/2 inches here. So I'm going to select on the product code. And if I select product detail, it will actually let me, if I scroll down, save this in, and I prefer step, hit save, and that will actually bring in that file right inside of Fusion 360. There it is, there's our screw. And again, I will actually need 2 of these. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to do Control C, Control V. Just like that. Hit OK. And we can now insert those with the joint as we have done now a few times. I'm going to select right on the back of the head there. Select right there. Let's flip that around. That's screw number 1. Let's right click, repeat joint. Select that one. And select over there and flip that. And there we have it. Here we now have our draw. All right, we're almost there. Now, the last thing I want to do to this draw is I want to change the appearances in it, just so it looks a little bit more realistic, not like it was made out of a big hunk of metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in the space here and go to appearances. And you will have some different options down here. So I have under wood, I have some finished wood. Now this little arrow over here just means that you can download them from the web. So they don't come default, but if you click the little arrow, you will download them. So I selected a mahogany semi-gloss. That's going to be my front cover here. So I'm just dragging it onto the knobs and the front cover. And then I decided that pine would look nice on the remaining components here. And there you have it, folks. I really hope that this tutorial was helpful. We got to dig a little bit deeper into the whole sketching and constraints. We got to use the combine feature, what is really cool. And I hope that this was something that brought you a little bit more confidence into your next design with Fusion 360. As always, I love your comments and suggestions down in the comment area. If you liked the video, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't, hey, hit the thumbs down. And if you haven't already, I would truly appreciate you hit that subscribe button. Until the next time, I hope that you have an awesome day. I hope you have fun modeling something up with Fusion 360. So take care. Get those. Hi everybody. Handle on the sometimes confusing. Oh, this language is hard. Hi everybody, my name is Lars. Why is my name so funny?